Imagine you are on vacation on an exotic tropical beach, and your vacation provides benefits not only for you, but also for the local community and the planet. In the previous video, I have discussed the circular economy at a glance. This time, I want to relate it to the tourism industry.
The tourism industry is a vast complex industry covering a variety of sectors and connecting with multiple other industries and value chains. An illustration provides a powerful illustration of the industry's scale prior to the COVID-19 crisis. Picturing the true impact of the industry is even more challenging, as tourism is deeply interlinked with every major industry. It reflects the complexity of the travel industry ecosystem, showing the direct travel value chain, its key travel stakeholders and the various travel-related activities, as well as the complex interconnectedness with a range of indirect value chains, activities and sectors, for source and destination markets. As we can observe on our daily news, the global travel and tourism industry is facing unprecedented economic and existential challenges due to the COVID-19 pandemic. How the industry will look in the future, and how this crisis will affect travelers' perceptions and behavior is still very uncertain. What appears to be increasingly certain, however, is that things will not be the same as before. A great level of rethinking and innovation will be required to adapt to a new reality, regulatory and customer demands. While in the process of reconfiguring tourism post-COVID-19, it is also important to remember that the trends and challenges affecting the industry's approach and viability in the medium and long term are not limited to the implications of COVID-19. There are numerous long-term social and industry trends that will be affecting travel and tourism industry actors in the years to come, on both the supply and demand side. These trends highlight the growing need for innovation, robust sustainability, health and safety performance, and cost optimization as important elements of differentiation and competitiveness in the coming years. On the supply side of trends, commoditization of products and services in most sectors, accommodation, pure service actors, tour operators, online travel agencies, OTA, transport segments, opportunity for positive arbitrage in differentiating value propositions towards sustainability storytelling and purpose, impact-driven business models. Increasing cost reduction focus, including customer acquisition cost, CAC, customer conversion rate and operational expenditures, OPEX, growing regulatory pressure, including related to security, climate, environment, resource use, health and safety, post-COVID-19. While on the demand side trends, people tend to travel to change. Increasing desire to live like a local, search for authenticity, participatory travel, transformative experiences, and travel with purpose. Post-COVID-19 rethinking of visitors' relationship to the cultures they visit. Travel, to show, quest for peer validation and experiences. Pursuit of a healthier, and more sustainable, lifestyles, e.g. slow travel, sports and wellness tourism, health tourism. Increased interest in domestic travel. Post-COVID-19 rediscovering of local attractions and local cultures in less crowded destinations. Emergence of the access, on-demand economy. Emerging consumers groups are more concerned with access to services rather than ownership of products. Omni-channels travel services consumption. Consumers increasingly demand, mobile-first, content-driven, and expect instant pricing and availability. Solo travel and multi-generational travel correlating to aging demographics and single households. Rising sustainability awareness, driven by global challenges around plastic waste, climate crisis, climate strikes, etc., making sustainability as key buy-in trigger for Generation Z and upcoming consumer groups. Safety, post-COVID-19 increasing demand for clear and strict hygiene measures, as well as health and safety credentials, guarantees from private and public actors. These trends reflect a rapidly growing need for travel and tourism actors to respond to global sustainability challenges and to reduce their own impacts. At the same time, this also highlights opportunities for forward-thinking service providers to position themselves as responsible and purpose-driven adopters of sustainable and circular business practices. Focusing on sustainable circular economy-driven initiatives, mixed with transparent and credible storytelling, is a potential source of differentiation. It also offers an opportunity to actively search for cost reductions and to drive product and service innovation. While the approach offers a source of differentiation for first-mover tourism service providers, the demand for sustainability, performance, and purpose is also fast-moving from nice to have to need to have. Much has been written about the characteristics of different generation groups. Active generation types are often described as the silent generation, baby boomers, Generation X, the millennials, or Generation Y, and the upcoming Generation Z, or post-millennials. The different preferences of these generations, largely defined by the social and technological context they have grown up in, have implications for companies. Related to everything from human resource management to how they best position their products to compatible customers through psychographic marketing segmentation. All age groups participate in tourism. However, the largest age group in international travel are the millennials, which were born from 1980 to mid-1990s. The millennials have been described as a key force in their travel behavior, leading to significant shifts in the tourism market. Similarly, the post-millennials, or Gen Z, which were born from mid-late 1990s to 2015, are fast emerging to become the largest group of consumers worldwide, with their own unique travel preferences. Although millennials and post-millennials' characteristics differ in many ways, both exhibit preferences for purpose-driven companies. More than older generations, these groups highly value work that is meaningful and products that align with their values. Although millennials exhibit traits that may support sustainable development goals, the demand for sustainability is perhaps strongest amongst the post-millennials, or Gen Z. Gen Z are raised in an era of global warming and massive ecosystem degradation. Studies show that a majority is worried for the environment and the planet, and also that companies must drive action on social and environmental issues. Gen Zers associate with and are willing to reward companies that demonstrate authentic purpose. Other studies indicate that the majority of Generation Z, 54%, state that they are willing to spend an incremental 10% or more on sustainable products, with 50% of millennials saying the same. Purpose and sustainability are thus important elements that must be increasingly reflected in travel and tourism service offerings. The total contribution of tourism and travel-related activities to worldwide GDP was estimated as 10.4% in 2019. This has brought with it a range of positive socioeconomic impacts for relevant nations and communities, in terms of employment and export revenues, and highlights the importance of tourism for economic recovery post-COVID-19. On the other hand, travel and tourism activities have also contributed to a range of negative environmental and social impacts. With international visitors forecast to reach 1.8 billion by 2030, from 669 million in 2000, these negative impacts are bound to increase substantially, assuming post-COVID-19 recovery of the industry in a business-as-usual scenario. The capability to address sustainability impacts and simultaneously align with general industry business challenges will be key determinants of competitiveness for private operators and public destinations management actors in the coming years. If we're talking about environmental issues and pressure on natural capital in a post-COVID-19 recovery, tourism industry actors will need to address the various environmental impacts associated with their activities and adopt actions that help regenerate, rather than deplete, natural capital. Travel and tourism-related activities are associated with diverse impacts on natural capital, ranging from CO2 emissions and resource consumption, to local ecological, habitat destruction, or titanium oxide chemicals from sunscreen affecting corals. The tourism industry is an important consumer and/or user of materials, energy and other resources, land, destinations, buildings, construction materials, furniture, vehicles, fossil fuel, food, textiles, a range of consumables, etc. In this context, all major tourism sectors operators are facing increasing demand-side pressure to report account for and reduce their natural and social ecosystem impacts. Airlines, cruise operators, hotels, inbound, outbound land operators, ground transport operators, ground activities operators will face increased demand-side pressure for accountability and transparency on the true costs of travel services, while regulators will sooner rather than later enforce stricter greenhouse gases emissions and resource use regulations. Especially regarding climate impacts of travel and tourism pre-COVID-19, we must know that travel and tourism was responsible for almost 1/10 of global greenhouse gas emissions, according to a study published in the journal Nature Climate Change. The study looked at traveler spending habits in 160 countries in the period 2009 to 2013 and quantified associated greenhouse emissions across a number of activities, including travel by air, rail and road, and by consuming goods and services, such as food, accommodation and souvenirs. The study considered all upstream supply chain activities associated with tourism spending, quantifying the total carbon footprint as increasing from 3.9 to 4.5 bn tons in the period. This made tourism a larger greenhouse emitter than the construction industry. Additionally, tourism has a relatively high ratio of carbon emitted per dollar spent by the consumer, or known as carbon multiplier, or around 1 kilogram CO2 per USD spent on tourism. This is higher than for manufacturing, 0.8, and construction, 0.7. Although transport plays a large role in tourism emissions, a significant part of the emissions has been associated with consumptions of goods and services. This seems to indicate that circular economy practices have an important role to play in lowering the carbon footprint of tourism activities. Studies have shown that almost half, 45%, of global carbon emissions are associated with the cars, clothes, food, and other products we use every day. To significantly lower these goods-related emissions, circular economy practices have been shown to be essential. Circular economy practices aim to optimize and extend the use of commodities, assets and materials and thereby lower their associated embedded greenhouse emissions. Now how about social issues and license to operate? Various social externalities associated with tourism activities can over time contribute to diminishing license to operate for tourism operators, negatively affecting their long-term viability and competitiveness within the affected communities. The income generated from inbound tourism activities tends to be unevenly distributed nationally and regionally within tourist destination economies. Consequently, the income generated locally isn't always proportionate to the corresponding environmental and social costs borne by these communities. Uneven distribution of visitors between many tourism hotspots has brought some European destinations to their carrying capacity limits, from both ecosystem and social perspectives. These are acute challenges for operators and regulators alike that can re-emerge and will not go away on their own. Transportation, water and waste management infrastructure costs have been increasing concerns facing destinations in urban centers, where we can observe in Amsterdam, Venice, Dubrovnik, Barcelona, and in seaside, mountain, island resort locations. Ground transport operators are faced with increased congestion and access issues in key destinations and urban centers, with cities such as Paris, Amsterdam, Rome, London increasingly limiting and forbidding coaches to enter city centers and setting up bans on petrol or diesel-powered vehicles in the coming years. Now, let's see industry challenges which affecting companies' competitiveness. Prior to COVID-19, well-documented digitalization and commoditization megatrends were already challenging the competitiveness of established actors. Increasingly, the changing demand hierarchy was challenging both established and new entrants' price-based dominant value propositions. Profitability challenges. Travel product commoditization resulting in downward pricing pressure, especially for pure service players such as B2C, B2B tour operators, high street retailers, online resellers, wholesalers. Digitalization. Tour operators' continuing struggle to compete with pure digital players was exemplified by the Thomas Cook bankruptcy. This highlights the increasing weight of distribution costs, customer acquisition, conversion costs, for operators large and small. Bricks and mortar retailers. Pure digital players and omni-channel actors increasing distribution costs trend is compounded by Google's evolution as a dominant one-stop shop travel services aggregator, at the top of consumers' travel sales funnel. Evolution of demand hierarchy. The evolution in consumer buying triggers has continued to accelerate, from a price-dominant buying trigger to a mix of price, value and purpose triggers. The rapidly growing awareness of the climate crisis is increasing the demand-side pressure on operators and regulators to address the linear, growth-centric contradictions of tourism development and promotion. As reflected earlier, a travel and tourism model based on unlimited volume growth is not sustainable. The current COVID-19 crisis offers a unique opportunity for industry actors to reflect and ask important questions about the future, including those related to the industry's adverse environmental and social impacts, overall resilience, risks and opportunities amidst 21st century sustainability challenges.
That is my explanation about tourism industry recent trends and sustainability challenges. In the next video, I will cover this explanation by discussing circular economy value creation, a conceptual framework for travel and tourism. Thank you for watching this video, stay healthy, and see you soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss watching interesting videos related to leisure, tourism, and education.